Welcome to another partnership of the Comic Source Comic Boom, coming at you with a really cool topic. If you didn't hear about it, DC Comics announced today this I guess getting in on the last day of March Madness, March 31st. They announced all these new possible series that they're thinking about coming out with, and they put them in bracket style, and they're asking everybody to go to their Twitter feed and vote and decide which of these series you want to come to fruition. So the first round is going on right now. So Rocky and I decided it'd be a lot of fun to get on here and talk about each of the series in turn and talk about which ones we like and which ones we pick. So what did you think when you saw this, Rocky? Cool idea, or you think it's kind of eh?
Well, I actually thought it was, I actually find it to be a refreshing idea. We've always been bitching about, DC and Marvel, listen to the fans. And then they usually the creators or editorial, we get some statement about, they want to give, you got to give readers you got to give them what they need, not what they want, and all this other nonsense. Yeah. And it's like, no, for once, no, let us vote. I remember back in the day, you're old, you and I are the same age. I don't know about you, but I remember voting to kill off Jason Todd by telephone back in the day. Yep. I like voting for what I like, and I like being respected for my vote. And I'm frankly excited for this. And the winner might not be who I vote for, but I like the opportunity to have some input.
Yeah, I agree. And I did see some other people talking. I wouldn't be surprised. So first of all, I think the way it's going to go is whatever advances to the next round, they're going to announce creative teams for. And then the following round, they're going to show like 3, 5, something like that, preview pages. And then the final two, you're going to get like 10 preview pages. So a lot of this stuff is further down the line. I think every one of these pitches and every one of these stories, DC would be willing to publish. So I wouldn't be surprised that even some that don't make it all the way, because, according to this, there's only going to be one winner, right? I wouldn't be surprised to see some that aren't the ultimate winner still see print at some point. Maybe just based on, how many votes it gets, if it seems like it's going to be popular. But you also wonder how much AT&T or the higher ups are driving this, going, okay, we want to, instead of just editorial approving a pitch and saying, we think this will sell, this is really a way for DC to actually say, look, have metrics. Hey, look, we got 50,000 votes for this. Maybe that means it'll sell at least 25,000 issues for the first, issue or two. So it's kind of like them covering their own butts in a way. And I think, like you said, it's cool because we're getting some input, and DC is getting a chance to say, okay, we think this might sell.
And and I think it's a safe thing to do too, because one of the things that I know that you had when you had we were communicating earlier, you said you were sort of interested to hear about JLQ, and I thought it stood for Justice League Quarterly, but it's Justice League Queer, because I thought Justice League Quarterly has some history behind it, and Justice League Quarterly was a series that was from a Justice League series from 1990 to 1994 that had various stars of the Justice League in it. But it stands for Justice League Queer, and to be quite frank, I think that's courting potential controversy myself, about putting sexual orientation at the forefront as opposed to stories and again, look, I'm all for a great story. I don't care about the sexual orientation of the characters. Just give me a good story. But I like the fact that DC is saying, well, look, we're calling it Justice League Queer. What do you guys think? Do you like it? We're letting you decide. If you think that we're forcing politics on you, then don't vote for it. If you like it, vote for it. We promise a good story. But again, it's letting the readership decide. And frankly, in this, let's face it, we've had a comic book culture war a little bit to a certain extent over the last 10 years. And so I kind of like the fact where DC is saying, okay, guys, look, we value your opinion. We don't want to screw this up, but we have some ideas. You tell us what you want. So I think it's actually a good idea.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'll save my thoughts on JLQ when we get there. You want to start going through the individual matchups?
Sure. And I'm just going through here, and this we're looking at the Games Radar, I guess, Newsarama site. The Brave and the Bug, Justice League Queer, Blue Beetle, Graduation Day, Superman and Lois, Ignition are just some of the potential titles to choose from. And going down, this is something you mentioned, Jace. If do you want to read through the rounds, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. So yeah, so basically the creative team for each project and some art won't be revealed till April 8th. You see here. So obviously that's after that first round is done. After the first round ends, maybe they haven't commissioned any art yet. After the first round ends, anything that makes it past the first round, we'll get to see some art. We'll know what the creative teams are, and so as things advance, we're going to get more and more because DC is not going to pay artists to create a bunch of work when it's not going to see the light of day. So that first bracket there, Green Lantern I almost said Underworld. That would be a completely different book. You want to talk about controversy?
Yeah.
Underworld on Fire. It's basically a Kyle Rayner Kilowog story, right?
Yeah.
There's some new Underworld kingpin in the galaxy, and even Sinestro wants to know who this big power player is in the galaxy. And Kyle Rayner and Kilowog are on the case, and they're going to try to figure out who it is. So that's going up against Etta Candy, Holiday Hero, which if you're not familiar, Etta Candy, she's kind of the Wonder Woman sidekick. She's just a regular human. She doesn't have any powers, but here she gets a chance to get powers. She gets her very own superpower. She takes on the mantle of Candy Stripe, and she joins forces with Wonder Woman, Amanda Waller, and her Beta Lambda sorority sisters, and creates a superhero group called Holiday Hero Inc. And it's an all-girl agency sworn to protect and assist anyone in need. Woo woo. That sounds very much aimed at younger readers to me.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that this is one of those there. It's not even going to be close. I don't think a lot of people know who Etta Candy is.
Yeah.
I think people are going to see Kyle Rayner, and I think Green Lantern is gonna win in a landslide here. Not to say that I wouldn't check out the Etta Candy, but it's definitely not in my wheelhouse. So for me, no brainer. I'm going with the Kilowog Rayner story. What about you?
Well, yeah, I have to agree. I can't believe. In fact, if I didn't know better, I would think they were setting Etta Candy up to lose here. Also, frankly, I'm assuming that this is the Caucasian Etta Candy, almost from the Golden Age, because it deals
or
with
from the first Wonder Woman movie. That's what I would assume.
Yeah, I'm assuming that just from the description. It's Etta Candy, the African American Etta Candy in the present continuity is a military member of the military, and just just a different character, period, quite frankly, with a different background and everything. I like this because it's a harken back to the Golden Age. I would actually like. I love Green Lantern. I would love to. Like to see it as a one shot. The Etta Candy thing. I don't know. This is really going to test the age of the readership, because I'm really curious if this voting is going to reveal anything, because us white male guys, part of me thinks that only us older white guys are collecting comic books and that we're a dying demographic, and I'm just going to be really curious to see on this vote how it goes, because wouldn't it be something if Etta Candy beat out Green Lantern? Because if that were the case, I would seriously question the demographic and the ages of those reading comic books. It's like, oh, wow, like that would shock me. That would really shock me. So I wonder if there are going to be any sleeper hits and surprises in this.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you. I wouldn't mind seeing the Etta Candy one shot, if only for my daughter's sake. She's a big Wonder Woman fan, and if this is aimed at younger readers, it would be right up her alley. But what's interesting is because the voting is taking place on Twitter, you can go to their Twitter feed, and once you've voted, you can go back and you can look and you can see, which ones are really close. Some of them that I thought wouldn't be close were like, one was 51 point something percent, and the other one was 49 point something percent. Others were like 79 to 20, and they weren't that close. But some, they were neck and neck. At least when I voted earlier today.
Wow, yeah, I haven't voted yet, so. But in any event, off to bracket number 2.
Your turn.
Okay, we'll take turns. The Brave and the Bug, Crisis on Infinite Ambush, which I have to say right off the bat, that's my favorite title out of all of them. So if I had to vote on the favorite title, that would definitely win. Ambush Bug must team up with some of DC's greatest heroes to survive an attack by revenge-seeking ambush bugs from across the multiverse who never got to exist thanks to AB's refusal to be rebooted. What does AB stand for? Oh, Ambush Bugs refusal.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I mean, that right away, that's got my attention. All right, the second one is Zatanna going up against Zatanna and the King of Nightmares. Something is terribly wrong with Zatanna's powers, but before she can heal herself, she is forced to confront her worst fears in a strange new spiritual realm ruled by the terrifying otherworldly foe known as the King of Nightmares. Well, what do you think, Jace? Where's your vote going on that one?
Well, yeah, based on which one's your favorite title out of all of them, we know which way you're voting. But So this one was really tough for me. It was almost a coin flip. So this is the one drawback of this, right? We're not getting to know the creative teams until we get to the next round, which means, we're not going to know what would have been the creative teams for half of the series. This one to me is so dependent on who the creators are. I'm not a big ambush bug fan. I'm more of a fan of Zatanna. If we're just going purely based on the characters, I enjoy Zatanna more as a character than I do ambush bug. That being said, if it's Keith Giffen on Brave and the Bug and somebody I've never heard of on Zatanna, maybe I go ahead and go with the ambush bug. But if it's like, I don't know, somebody who's narrative I trust and like Nicholas Scott art, or my dream would be to have Adam Hughes art and covers on Zatanna, then I'm going with that. So it's so tough for me because I don't really have a horse in this race. So all that being said, because I do like Zatanna, at 51% and Ambush Bug 49, I went ahead and went with Zatanna here. So I guess if you vote for Ambush Bug, our votes are going to cancel each other out.
Well, I agree with you on your comments about Adam Hughes, Zatanna, and it's going to be interesting to see if the speculators out there, the comic book speculators, are going to be voting out in droves on this. Because I tell you what, Zatanna issues I think it's issues 9, 13, and 16 that finals it from her series, from her last DC comic book series. Those things are eating up the comic book speculation market, and there's nothing that speculators would love more to have another reason to raise the price of Zatanna comics. And that Hawkman number 4, the first appearance of Zatanna, will that take off if more people vote from this? It's going to be really interesting to see again the demographics that come out to vote. I'm really curious, and I was wondering, you said the vote on just on Twitter, or is it elsewhere too?
As far as I know, it's only on Twitter. Their initial announcement said vote in this thread, and they had the Twitter polls. So as far as I know, it's only on Twitter. And once you voted, if you go back to that thread and look, it'll show you the updated percentages. So, but real quick, something you said there, and I know some of those Zatanna issues are really hot because they have Hughes covers, but he didn't do the interiors, right? He just did.
That's right. He didn't do the interiors. No.
Okay. Yeah, man, I'd love to see him do like the covers and the interiors. That would be awesome.
Yeah. All right.
So wait, you didn't give us your pick. You got to make it official.
Yeah. My pick is. Actually, as much as I love Ambush Bug, I would like that story. I am a huge Zatanna fan. And I love Zatanna. I got her whole series. I don't have her first appearance in Hawkman number 4. I do have a speculator side that's a little outside my budget. It keeps itching up in price. And frankly, if Zatanna wins this vote, I don't think that price of Hawkman number 4 is going to be coming down anytime soon. But we'll see, because even though Zatanna might make it past the first round, you never know, because again, we have that round robin tournament. It's going to be really interesting to see how that all turns out in the end. But in any event, yeah.
All right, on to bracket number 3. We have a Lobo Animal Man team up called Scorched Earth going up against Son of the Creeper. So Lobo, main man, to read the text here. Entire alien races collectively wet themselves with fear. I love that. That's a great way to describe Lobo. He doesn't take any crap, but he doesn't really mention anything about the Animal Man part of that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then we have Son of the Creeper, which awkward teenager's life's turned upside down when he inherits his dad's chaotic powers. But apparently he's never met his father, according to this, because it says Kieran Millard must save a father he doesn't know from the monster he's become. So my initial was right away was the Creeper. And then I was like, oh, wait, this is Son of the Creeper. So it's a new guy getting to the Creeper powers. I don't know. I'm a sucker for the Creeper, especially the Steve Ditko stuff. And I don't really like Lobo. He's not somebody who resonates with me. So for me, it's a pretty easy choice here with the Creeper. But I might regret that because, I mean, Son of the Creeper, it's something totally different. It's not the Creeper that we all know. And again, I wish this is another instance where I really wish we knew which creative teams were behind the books. But for me, if I had to pick one, I'll go with Creeper.
Yeah, when one of the frustrating things I'm finding as we're going through this is that and that's the problem with any round robin tournament is I wish the pairings were different because I really would. I mean, frankly, that Etta Candy is getting down farther and down on my list all the time. I tell you what, because like I said, I'm a longtime DC reader. I know you are too. I love the obscure characters. I love when they get some love and some focus. And the idea of the Son of the Creeper, I love that idea. I remember Jason, way back in the day, Beware the Creeper by Vertigo. One of Jason Aaron's earliest works for DC
Yep.
Vertigo. I remember reading that, and I don't imagine this is going to be along that same vein, but I really enjoyed that. And it's always something that stayed with me. And I love the Creeper, and they can always do something different with it. But God damn, man, who doesn't love Lobo and Animal Man? What an odd pairing. Yeah, I find that to be an odd pairing, and it's always those wild cards that come that can just surprise the hell out of you and surprise the readership. So, man, I know I got to make an executive decision here. Oh my God, if I have to go between these two. You know what? I'm gonna go with the wild card. If for no other reason you went for Son of Creeper, we got to split it. I go with Lobo and Animal Man, but I got to tell you, man, I don't think there's a loser here, to be honest with you.
Yep, I agree. And for me, the Creeper has one of the most underrated costumes in all of DC Comics. The color scheme is just, it's so loud and in your face and just awesome. I love the way he looks.
Right on. Okay. Well, bracket number 4, we got Justice League Queer, not quarterly, so I was wrong on that. Justice League Queer versus the Robins. Justice League Queer. 8 young queer heroes investigate a series of monstrous manifestations around the world and discover that something much more terrifying is coming. Very ominous. Versus the Robins, which is in the Bloodhaven apartment of Dick Grayson, a group of young people meets for coffee, donuts, and kvetching between long, awkward silences. The only thing they have in common, all were once kid wonders, sidekicks to Batman. Robins. Wow. I want to be diplomatic here. I don't like the whole principle of making someone's orientation the focus of a story. I think that's just bad form. But you know what? Maybe that's not my place to say. So I want to be fair here. I think it's very odd that 8 young people happen to get together to fight a monstrous manifestation, and they all happen to be gay. It just seems like a very, story-wise, that seems very hard to believe. But I don't want to take away from people that might be looking for those types of stories and looking for a comic book that speaks to them. So I want to be fair to that. And again, and if it's a good story, well, frick, I don't care. Give me a good story. But so I'll leave I'll leave the politics out of it. And if it's a great story, fine. Frankly, I'm sick of Batman. I'm sick of all the Robins. I don't need another Robin story. And I'm so sick of a Robin story. We're getting Damian. I love Damian. I don't need Robin's story. I don't need a bunch of Robins like a little nest together and they're all sitting around having donuts talking about being Batman's sidekick. That sounds boring as hell to me. I would rather have Justice League Queer. What the hell? Surprise me. It's a wild card.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why is so. If you're not familiar, with the term kvetching. That's a Yiddish term. It means complaining. So they're sitting around bitching about Batman. A bunch of Robins sitting around bitching about Batman. I think that gag gets old by the third or fourth page.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with Rocco. We have more than enough Bat family content. So yeah, to me, I'm going to go with Justice League Queer. And here's the thing. I agree with something that Rocky said right off the bat. Right. If the focus is on the fact that these are queer characters, I don't think the book works. The whole point would be to bring in characters that are queer, and that's not the focus. Focus on the fact they're heroes who just happen to be queer, right? Don't make it, overt and in your face. But also at the same time, how many thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of comics have been created over the years that guys like Rocky and I can relate to, right? It's the superhero is a white male, heterosexual, and we can, put ourselves in their shoes. It's a much, much smaller number when you start talking about representation for queer characters in comics. So I'm fine to have them get a chance to see a super group and a team that, they can find somebody to identify with. Really, I know we'll have succeeded as a society when it stops even being a thing. It doesn't have to be called Justice League Queer. It's just called Justice League. And the sexual orientation of the characters doesn't matter one way or the other. We can just stop talking about it. But I know we're probably centuries away from that. It still has to be a thing. But yeah, I'm JLQ. I think this is an important book to be out there to give people a chance. And, we always talk about growing the readership. You got to give people books that they can see themselves. They can relate to the characters. Hey, I see myself in that character. And so I think for me, this is the one, almost the one that I want to see happen the most. Not necessarily for myself, because I want the story more than any other story. There's other stories I probably would rather read more. But I think this is kind of the most important one. And, the whole point of this, DC reaching out to the readership going, hey, tell us what you want to see. I wouldn't be surprised. But if they really wanted it to succeed, they should have put this up against Etta Candy. They put it up against the Batman book.
Yeah.
So maybe they're like, well, we're going to try it. We'll look like we tried to do the PC thing, but sorry, you lost out to Batman. We're not going to produce it. But also at the same time, like I said at the top, this is one I could see losing and still seeing print at some point as well.
But yeah. And, and I just had a brain fart, Jace, but I tried to rattle off 8 queer heroes that the DC universe has. Renee Montoya, you could maybe throw in Harley, Ivy, Scandal, Crush. Who am I missing? Like, who are the other queer?
Kate Kane, you forgot.
Kate Kane, Batwoman, thank you. All right.
Yeah.
And I'm just, I guess I'm just trying to rattle them off. So anyways.
Yeah, there are others. What was the guy? Extraño. Remember from the Millennium?
Millennium. How can we forget Extraño? Like, honestly, like I said, what I hope doesn't happen. I hope this doesn't delve into a bunch. I hope that the
I don't want it to be political
aspect doesn't override the purpose of this, which is to draw in readership and get people excited and to vote. And that's what I'm excited about this, and I'm looking at it from that perspective and putting our best foot forward, because I don't want there to be a bunch of YouTube videos of people bitching about representation. I don't care. Just let's just try to enjoy the story and vote accordingly. And it's gonna be interesting to see how the vote goes. This is DC saying, look, we're listening to people. We want to be inclusive, but let's see what the readership tells us.
Well, you put it perfectly. You said it's about a good story. Don't beat us over the face with the fact that these are queer characters. Just give us a good story. And the fact that they're queer is secondary to that. I don't have a problem with it at all. And I don't think most people should have a problem with it. Whether they do or not, it's another story altogether. But just tell us a good story, and forget, don't try to make a political statement. I think DC is pretty good about doing that. I know people read into things and you just can't help that these days. But yeah, just give us a good story and so we can enjoy it.
All right. Bracket 5. I think you're up there, Chase.
Yeah, bracket 5. So when the Justice League disappears, it's Jimmy Olsen to the rescue, along with the Super Pets. They must save the world from certain doom by posing as the missing Justice League. So So when I got to this bracket, I mean, I read that and whatever was up against it pretty much didn't have a chance. But it's up against Jesse Quick Control. And I don't know if that's a play on Jesse Quick Control, or if it's just Jesse Quick Control. But Jesse Quick uses her speed to access an alien artifact from a long dead civilization, and it changes her powers around. All of a sudden, she has the ability to harness and control the elements around her at the expense of her super speed. She's no longer fast. But when the power begins to corrupt Jesse, she's got to decide whether she wants to give up these new gifts or risk becoming quite literally her own worst enemy. So, when I read that, that just reinforced my pick. For me, Jesse Quick, the whole point, her name is Jesse Quick. She needs to have speed powers. So, yeah, I got to go with Jimmy Olsen and the Super Pets. Although, again, this is another one where maybe if it's a great creative team on Jesse Quick, I could be swayed. But just based on what we know here, I got to go with Paws off the Justice League.
Well, my friend, we can vote differently and still be friends, okay?
100%.
So, yeah, you know what? I read the 12-issue Jimmy Olsen series by Matt Fraction, and I enjoyed it for what it was, but nonetheless, I left that series convinced that I don't think I'll ever really be able to enjoy Jimmy Olsen's story. Not really. I thought it was disappointing. Now this might be completely different, but Jimmy Olsen, DC has tried repeatedly to make Jimmy Olsen interesting, and they have failed repeatedly. And you know what? I'm tired of it. And the whole Super Pets thing, it just doesn't float my boat. And you know what? I like Jessie Quick. I do. I like her. She's more interesting. And I'm assuming, it's funny because when I should say that when I was doing the thumbnail here, under my face I have a Jessie Quick, my favorite version of Jessie Quick. I'm not sure. There's different versions of Jessie Quick through various incarnations. I'm not sure which one it is, but I can tell you that I am curious to. I like the story, and quite frankly, I like the synopsis. I mean, I find it interesting, and we need some more female speedsters. It's nice to have Jessie Quick get some love here, and I think it's about time because I think I'm a little bit sick of Jimmy Olsen. I'm just kind of a little bit tired of him. I saw him in Future State. He was older and dilapidated. He came across like kind of an older loser, kind of pathetic. And he's always looking like so nerdy, and I know that's how he's supposed to be, but I don't know, the only use that Jimmy Olsen ever had for me is that in that one issue of Jimmy Olsen, thank God we got Darkseid out of it, and it took Jack Kirby drawing Jimmy Olsen to give us Darkseid, and that's the most interesting Jimmy Olsen has ever been. But so that's my reasoning there.
I'm not the biggest Jimmy Olsen fan. I'm more choosing this for the Super Pets, thinking it's something that I could share with my daughter. But you're right. I mean, you look at the synopsis. We got, what is it, 5 lines for Jessie Quick, and only 2, literally 1 sentence for the Jimmy Olsen story. But it has more to do with the Super Pets for me than Jimmy himself. So,
all right. So bracket 6. All right, Blue Beetle Graduation Day versus Nightrunner Love in Paris. Regarding Blue Beetle Graduation Day, trapped between heroics and his future, Jamie Reyes is directionless. When the reach interrupt Jamie's high school graduation, things only get worse. Starfire becomes a new mentor to Blue Beetle, but is it Jamie or the Scarab that's really in the driver's seat? And why hasn't Jamie applied to any colleges? ? Versus Nightrunner Love in Paris. All of Paris is obsessed with an intoxicating virtual songstress whose holographic stage shows are lighting up the city of love. But when the Vocaloid Ingenue fans start to disappear, Nightrunner must track down the infamous developer behind the eerily realistic celebrity AI. Wow. I don't even know where to start with this one. Honestly, man, help me out.
All right, you want me to go first? All right. So here's the thing. Like, I love Jaime Reyes. He's a really cool character and an interesting take on Blue Beetle. You know, much different than Dan Garrett, the first Blue Beetle, or even Ted Kord, who didn't have any superpowers. So I like Jaime a lot, and I would read an ongoing title and did read his New 52 ongoing title and really enjoyed it. That being said, Nightrunner, here's a character that Kyle Higgins created in some of his earliest comic book and DC work. I think he only appeared in the one Detective Comics annual where he first showed up, and we haven't seen him since. So going back to something you said earlier, Rocky, about I love learning more about these obscure characters. There's part of me that wants to read the Nightrunner story. But ultimately, I had to go with Jaime only because I know him. I'm more familiar with him. I think if Jaime's, which again, this is a round robin, and only one series is going to win, and it's not going to be Jaime Reyes as Blue Beetle. We all know that. But that being said, assuming let's say there were only two choices, a Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle series would have a much greater chance of succeeding than a Nightrunner series. Although Nightrunner is tangentially tied to Batman, he was in Batman Incorporated. But ultimately, I got to go with Blue Beetle. But it's close. It's really close. Because I think Nightrunner is an interesting character. I'd love to see more. He's got a cool costume. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Blue Beetle on this one.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have a dog in this race. I just don't. I mean, I'm not going to be a cop out. I will pick one, but truthfully, I just don't care. I know nothing about Nightrunner. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know if I ever read a Nightrunner story. If I have, I've totally forgotten it. Maybe after Death Metal, when our reality was rewritten, my memory of Nightrunner was eliminated. But honestly, I'm actually curious about Nightrunner. I've not been. I like the old classic Blue Beetle. That's with the scarab and all that jazz. I'm not a huge fan of Yami. I even said his name wrong. I called him Jamie again. So I don't even say the name right. But
it's the Latin pronunciation of Jamie would be Jaime, but J sounds like an H. So yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, this is one of those brackets. This is one of those brackets, right, where you wish you could swap when you were talking about the matchups earlier. Can I throw my Lobo Animal Man in here against one of these and then move the other one against Son of the Creeper so I can get Creeper and Lobo?
Exactly. Yeah. But so I'm gonna go with Nightrunner just because I kind of like the concept. I've never been to Paris. What the hell? Why not? So it'll be a wild card. Because I don't care what anybody says. In any vote, there's always a wild card. And one of these is going to surprise us. And why can't it be Nightrunner? What the hell?
Why not? What if that won? That would be crazy. We got a bunch of trolls out there. All of a sudden, all the CG guys start jumping in here. Let's ruin DC by voting for Nightrunner. Make it win.
Yeah. All right, man. You're bracket 7.
Bracket 7, Swamp Thing, A House of Secrets. So we're flashing back here with Swamp Thing. When love will not die, the dead must rise from the grave to kill it. So we're in Louisiana, 1905, caught in an eternal triangle of love and living death. The monstrous Alex Olson, his widow Linda, and his undead rival Damien vie for control of the cursed swamp where life, death, and the past and the future spiral into one never-ending nightmare. So clearly this is not the Alex Holland Swamp Thing. So when you say undead, is that Damien that's undead, or is because Alex Olson's described as monstrous here, so Alex Olson is Swamp Thing, and the undead rival Damien is some sort of zombie. So you almost think, okay, if Alex Olson is the Alec Holland character, Linda would be sort of the Abigail Arcane sort of character, and the undead rival Damien would be Anton Arcane, I guess. I don't know. I'm not the biggest Swamp Thing guy, so I'm not sure. It does sound a bit derivative, though. But that's going up against Suicide Squad 7. Harley Quinn leads a team of criminals, a millionaire adventurer, a stage magician, a sugar-obsessed serial killer, a delusional former superhero, a drunk assassin, a mute metahuman, and a child who becomes a monster to stop the centuries-old Church of Blood from trying to destroy all of humankind.
Oh, man.
I love the Church of Blood. I love Brother Blood. I'm not the biggest Harley fan in the world, but I probably, based on creative teams, like her slightly better than Swamp Thing. And I do like the whole idea of Suicide Squad. So that gets my vote here only because the Swamp Thing sounds like a story we've read before, trying to rechannel Alan Moore with the whole love triangle thing. So my vote's for Suicide Squad 7. But it's another one where if I knew the creative teams, I might change my vote. But what are your thoughts, Rocky?
Well, I tell you what, I know you and I are both, well, maybe a little. I'm really enjoying Ram V's Swamp Thing right now. If I was knowing Ram V was writing Swamp Thing, House of Secrets, I would definitely do it. The other thing is the title itself, Swamp Thing, A House of Secrets. I'm sure that there's a reason why House of Secrets is there. House of Secrets was a fantastic Vertigo series. I collected all of those. I love that. I love the characters of that. I love the concept of the House of Secrets. I love that with Swamp Thing. I love the setting of 1905. It just sounds like something I would love. It sounds like something I would buy. It sounds like a Vertigo title. I absolutely love it. I absolutely also love Suicide Squad 7. It sounds hilarious. Just like I love it's just like I love the Suicide Squad movie preview that just came out. I just love it. I love both these ideas, and it's like we were talking about earlier, Jace. I mean, these pairings it's frustrating to me. I want both these. I want to vote for both of them. This is unfair, and I got to pick one. Well, you know what? I'm gonna go with Swamp Thing, House of Secrets, because it's, as much as I love Suicide Squad 7, look, I got lots of Suicide love. I'm enjoying, relatively speaking, the Suicide Squad DC series as it is. We're getting a Suicide Squad movie. Let's spread out the love. So I want to see some House of Secrets there with Swamp Thing.
Yeah, it's a good point you bring up voting for both. You would cancel out your own vote, because I guess if you have multiple Twitter accounts, you could vote multiple times technically.
That's a good point.
And I will also mention House of Secrets. That's a classic DC horror title, not just Vertigo, but back in the 50s and when EC Comics was around, even before that, the 40s, when EC Comics was around, before the Seduction of the Innocent by Charles Wortham and the Comics Code Authority. They had House of Secrets as a DC comic for many years and went through the 60s and 70s. And I think it ended in the early 80s. So yeah, that is a very traditional title to put on a DC horror comic. I didn't think about that. And will the House of Secrets, because when you talk about House of Secrets, that's an actual house. That's an actual location in the DC universe where the stories for the House of Secrets comic used to take place. So that almost sways me, but I'm going to stick with my my Suicide Squad 7 pick.
All right. Well, we're on to bracket 8, and this is the final bracket. Asteria, The Last Amazon versus Superman and Lois, Ignition. Asteria, The Last Amazon. I'm sure you're like me, Jace. When I hear Asteria, I think of Wonder Woman. I think of the Wonder Woman 1984 movie with Linda Carter, who played Asteria in the movie, who was the sort of the original essentially the original Wonder Woman, who wore the golden armor that ultimately Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman wore at the end of Wonder Woman 1984. And while people can decide for themselves how much they loved Wonder Woman 1984, it didn't do as well as some people hope, but if you're a huge Wonder Woman 1984 fan and you're a huge Linda Carter fan, and I'm both, you might want to read Asteria, The Last Amazon. And but in any event, let me read it first here. An immortal Amazonian champion returns to man's world to discover her and the Amazon's sacrifice, now forgotten, a new breed of hero seeking power, glory, and dominance, and the secret family she left behind offering one last chance at redemption. Woohoo! Cue music. All right, Superman and Lois, Ignition. Our solar system is a machine, and its purpose is to trap and kill Superman. The sun is darkening. Mars' orbit is changing in a mysterious citadel, and Jupiter's great red eye has awoken. It is time for Kal-El to stand against the very end of his world. But he won't be doing it alone. Lois Lane is suited up and blasting off to get the biggest story in human history and to watch Clark's back as he faces his greatest challenge yet, facing ancient aliens and planet-sized machines, trickster asteroids, and the Giga Krakens of Neptune. Yeah, I pronounced that correctly, I think.
You did.
Superman and Lois will fight across all 9 planets to prevent Earth's dark destiny and save our future. All right, Jace, this is enlighten me. What should I vote for?
Oh, man, so here's the thing. Like, these may be the 2 series that I want more than any, and they're up against each other. So again, I'm just so torn. I too am a huge Linda Carter fan. I mean, the woman, I think she's in her 70s now, and she still looks so good. So good. The first one, I remember watching the Wonder Woman TV show as a kid and loving it. I thought it was great to see her in the movie. But this is my boy. This is Superman. And not only is it Superman, it's Lois too. She's out there on the front lines with him. I mean, Rocky, my wife's name is Lois. How can I pick anything but Superman and Lois Ignition? How can I choose? I mean, when I saw this and I started reading it, I'm like, wait, Lois is suited up? Like, is this like the super Lois like we saw in All-Star Superman? Because that would be even better. So I have to pick that. But I mean, I think Asteria might be the series I want the second most of any of these. So it's tough, but ultimately I can't not choose Superman and Lois Ignition. But man, I really would love to see that Asteria title be printed as well.
Yeah, I honestly, when I read the Superman and Lois, it doesn't interest me at all. It's just in a. I feel that they're missing the boat on Superman and Lois. It doesn't sound character driven to me. It sounds like a plot driven exercise that we've seen before, and there's nothing about it that really. It almost seems like another version of a future state story, and I get the impression that it's not even taking place. It's that it does take place in the future. It just doesn't really seem to interest me, quite frankly. I'm just not into it, and frankly, my preference for Superman and Lois stories, I still want the young John Kent back, and yeah, I know I got to let that go, but I still can't, and it's just not the same. Asteria all the way, Last Amazon, and to be honest with you, I've been pretty hard on Wonder Woman. I like the new. We got Nubia, we got Yara Flor, and I love Nubia, I love Yara Flor, less so Diana. But I'm 2 for 2 for loving Yara Flora and loving Nubia. Why not throw in Asteria there? Asteria all the way. Because what do we need another Superman and Lois story for? Good God, we have a TV show. We got the Superman comics. Give us more Asteria.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, when you read the Superman and Lois description there, if you have a cool Superman and Lois story, just put it in the regular Superman book. If you print Asteria wins, we are getting something new. So I see your point. That being said, I'm still going to pick Superman and Lois because I don't want to be in the doghouse.
That's all the brackets, and so now this is the round robin and how it looks, and I'm just wondering, do you have any predictions as to a winner at this point? I mean, I know I'm asking a lot because I'm asking a lot for myself too, and it's probably unfair to ask, but I'm going to ask you anyway, Jace.
I almost think when you look at this, I almost think, well, Robbins is because it's the one, and kudos to DC. I mean, Robbins, that is a Batman family book, and I guess Nightrunner to some extent, although he's not. Most Batman fans don't even know who Nightrunner is. But if they'd put a Batman title in here, like something with Bruce Wayne, that would have won. So kudos to them for not doing that. It does give other things a chance. That being said, I do fear that Robbins is going to be the one that does end up winning. But the other interesting thing is like, we were just talking about it. It's so down to the matchups. I mean, I bet they took a long time to decide what was going to match up against what, and tried to match up things that were in equal popularity. And like I was saying earlier, a lot of the votes are very, very close. The majority of them, at least half of them, but I think the majority of them are close. There's a couple that are like razor thin when I voted. So that's telling me that, hey, some of these are they're neck and neck. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. If I had to pick one, yeah, I think Robbins would be my pick. And as a second pick, I think the Suicide Squad 7, that's going to be on a lot of people's minds. Because, again, you could have people that aren't necessarily the biggest comic fans. They could be casual comic fans or not necessarily comic fans at all, but more fans of movie or TV or whatnot that follow DC Comics. And they just stumble across this on Twitter, and they're going to vote for the things that they recognize. And with the Suicide Squad movie coming out real soon, Suicide Squad 7 could sneak in there. So I'll say Robbins, and then Suicide Squad 7 is my backup pick. And again, those aren't even in my top 5 of stories that I would want to see.
Yeah. And I think those are safe picks, and I have safe picks too. And and frankly, I think my picks are for the final two anyway, or the two that will win. It would be Suicide Squad 7, and I would go with Lobo, Animal Man, Scorched Earth. I think would be the final two. I think they're both kind of safe bets. I'm hoping for a wild card win. What I would like to see, and this is I know this is a mixed bag, but I'm thinking beyond. I'm wondering if I'm going to have my expectations subverted here in terms of the outcome. In other words, I tend to think, I'm sure you're the same way. Most of us who comment on the state of the comic book industry, there's a lot of predictability about it in terms of what sells and what doesn't. And we think we know what people want and what they don't want. And a lot of times we're pretty cocky about what the big two should be doing. And here DC is giving us the option, and I'm really curious again to see, maybe we'll get some surprises. And part of me wants to be surprised. I want to be surprised because, hey, if I'm misunderstanding the market, if I got to tell you, if Etta Candy ends up in first place, I might have to go into therapy or something. I don't know. Like, I might have to reevaluate what I'm reading, or my Twitter account or my YouTube channel. I don't know. But it's going to be very, very interesting because, again, Lobo, Animal Man, Scorched Earth, Suicide Squad 7. For me, I think they're very safe choices. I'm wondering though if is this going to attract a larger audience? I would love to get the manga crowd in, and maybe if this gets the crowd, because this should be advertised. I want people that aren't who would not normally be inclined to pick up a DC comic to go and vote and read these synopses and vote, because I have a sneaking suspicion that a person who doesn't read a lot of comics, I can't see them necessarily choosing Suicide Squad 7 or Lobo and Animal Man or, but I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's a good point you make. I'd love to see some non-comic readers, some casual readers, or people that have never read a comic go and vote, but only if they're going to pick it up and read. Like, if what they vote for wins, they got to pick it up and read it too. That would be my caveat. If I had to pick some dark horses, one from each side, just like I did with kind of my safe picks, I'd say from the left side, the surprise for me, but could have a chance, could happen, would be that Green Lantern story. And on the right side would be that Asteria story, because she did appear in Wonder Woman 1984. And a lot of people, myself included, love Linda Carter. She's very popular. So yeah. I wouldn't be disappointed to see either of those make it into the final either.
All right. Well, that pretty much covers it. I'm excited for this. I'm so pleasantly surprised by DC. Part of me, shame on me for being a little bit cynical. I thought to myself initially when I heard about this vote, I said to myself, what's wrong with DC editorial? They can't make up their minds. Now we have to make up their minds for them too. Like, what's going on? But then I stop and think about it. It's like, well, wait a minute. They're actually asking my opinion. And because, how cocky have we been so often, us commentators, presuming that we know what's going to happen and listen to us. And they're finally saying, okay, smart asses, vote, show us, because now what's the excuse if these series fail? Really? I mean, It's not, they have a legitimate argument to say, hey guys, you voted, like, we're listening to you. And so how is it our fault if this doesn't work out? I mean, what more can we do? So makes you think.
Yeah, good point. So I imagine we'll probably come back at least for the next round, because then we'll have creative teams to talk about, which will add a whole nother dimension and probably change our minds on certain things. So I'm sure Rocky and I will be back for the next round. And then when it gets down to I don't know, when there's only 4 or 2, we may just fold it into our regular DC Spotlight episodes. But certainly let us know in the comments below, or if you're listening on the podcast, hit us up on Twitter or Instagram or what have you. Give us your thoughts. Let us know, why we're wrong with picking what we picked and why we should pick what you like. Give us your thoughts of how you feel overall about what DC is doing here. And yeah, we always love to hear from listeners and viewers. So,
All right, and with that, we shall sign off.
yeah, we want to thank everybody for listening. As always, really appreciate your support. If you're listening on any podcast platform, Comic Source is available. If you're checking us out on YouTube, be sure you go and subscribe to the Comic Boom with an exclamation point website. That's Rocky's channel, where he does all kinds of great reviews and talks about his great collection and shows off a lot of his key issues and all that kind of good stuff. So be sure you smash that like button and subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. And like I said, we really appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. So we'll talk to you next time.